All right, let's get started. So before we introduce the speakers, I'll do a quick introduction. So I'd like to say hello everybody, hello to the community. We're so happy to have you all here for the Hedera community call. I'm Mika and I'm the community development rep for Hedera at Swirlds Labs. And today we have an amazing lineup of speakers here to update you on 3 different topics in the Hedera ecosystem. So the 3 different topics are the path to decentralization, which will be a presentation given by Leemon. We will have Sushil giving us a presentation on Dropp, and then Greg giving us a demo of the newly launched Stablecoin studio. And after that, we have a special speaker, Tony, who will talk to us about the HBAR Foundry. So before we get started, there are a few logistics you should know about. So first is that this call is being recorded and will be shared on our social channels, so you will have the chance to rewatch it in case you can't listen to it all, and you can also share it with friends who maybe couldn't make it today. For the speakers, please make sure that you are muted while you're not speaking so there's no interference. And then for everybody, at the end of every presentation, it will be up to the speaker if they want to take questions or not. So if you have questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to ask them in the chat box for this call. And then at the end of the presentation, the speakers can choose to answer questions if they would like. So let's get started with the first speaker. Leemon, I will let you introduce yourself.
Okay, I will wave. Hi, so I'm Leemon Baird, and it is great to be here with you. I'm excited to talk about various aspects of the Hedera project, including decentralization, our path to decentralization today. Shall I go ahead and talk? I will go ahead and talk. Cool. So hopefully you can see the slides. It's a blue and purple kind of black slide, says decentralization. And I just will take a few minutes and just talk about where we're going. So from the very beginning of Hedera in 2018, we've said that we have this path, that we are going to decentralization. You know, we started off with just 5 council members, which wasn't as decentralized as you'd want. And we've just been on this path, and it's been going very well on this path. And so let me kind of give you an update and tell you where we're headed. We want to have decentralization. What does that mean? It means really 4 things. So we want to have decentralized governance, so more than 5 council members. We want to have a lot, 29 today. We want to have network utility. This has to be a network that is useful to people and that real people are building real things on it, using it for real things. Right now we're the most used in the world, which is kind of nice. The currency distribution. If all of the HBARs are held by Hedera and Hedera stakes, then Hedera kind of controls it. But now more than 2/3, I think, of the HBARs have been released. And so we have distributed the currency. And then distributed nodes. So we have the council nodes. As we've grown the council, the number of council nodes has grown. The next step is community nodes. And then the next step after that is permissionless nodes. So community nodes means permissioned, but more than just the council. And then permissionless is everybody. So this is the goal, is to be doing all of those things. Oh, there we go. Now I can see the chat too. And if you have any questions, you can put them in chat. Maybe I'll answer them while I'm talking, because I'm easily distracted. But I will also give questions at the end. Cool. Sometimes DeFi, you're getting interrupted. Okay, yeah. So I think I'm now working correctly. So let's talk about these things. So Hashgraph, Hedera is built on Hashgraph, and Hashgraph is different from, say, proof of work blockchains. And it's also even different from some of the other blockchains that aren't proof of work. People are very kind. So if you have proof of work, you have a chain of blocks, and you have to solve really hard math problems and burn lots of electricity to put the next block on. Other ledgers do it other ways. It might pseudo-randomly choose who the leader will be to put on the next block. Or it might be that they take turns being the leader who puts on the next block. Hashgraph is different. You never have a leader, not even for a moment, not even instantaneously. There's never a choice of who is the leader to put on the next. It's the equivalent of every single validator node creating 10 blocks a second, and could even go higher in the future. At the same time, no taking turns, no coordination, just everybody is blasting out blocks as fast as they can. And then, because each of these blocks is an event that has 2 hashes in it, remembering the last one you created and the last one you received, When everybody collects all of these blocks, you just have a big pile of them, but those two hashes let you put them together like puzzle pieces, and you build a hash graph. And the hash graph then allows everyone to just look at the hash graph and know the order. There's no leader. There's no one choosing the order. We all just look at the hash graph, and then every node knows the order. And the math proof is that we'll all have the same answer. So there's no communication whatsoever about the order. There's no leader. We just do that. So this is why Hashgraph is so fast, and that which then makes it inexpensive. It's also why it's so secure. So it's ABFT. It's a pile of blocks rather than a line of blocks. I like that. Yes. You have a picture of a tree that's kind of cool. I should bring that in sometime too. Oh yes, fire on that. I love that. So that is how the Hashgraph algorithm works. Hedera, of course, is a whole stack of things. That's at the bottom. Then we want to know, what about the mainnet nodes? Will we consider them to be decentralized? So I'll say, actually, the algorithm is more decentralized than anything. You never have any leaders. That's the most decentralized way of picking a leader, is to not have a leader. So that's kind of cool. Very decentralized at that layer. But that's not usually what we talk about for decentralization. For the nodes, how do we get the nodes decentralized? Well, the ultimate decentralization of nodes is when it's permissionless. Everyone on Earth is running nodes. They're running them anonymously. There's a lot of them. So that is the, and it is an ordered pile of blocks. Yeah, the whole point of Hashgraph is you have this random unordered pile of blocks, and then everyone can look at it, and then in their mind, they put them in a line in a nice order, and everybody gets the same order. I love that. It's just really cool. So it's totally chaotic and disordered. Have to talk with each other about how to put them in order. Okay. So the decentralization of the nodes will be fully complete when we have permissionless nodes and everybody's running nodes. But of course, to do permissionless, you have to have a way to make it, to avoid Sybil attacks. You don't want one person to create a million nodes and dominate the network and do bad things. So instead, what you do is you have proof of stake. And then the stake means that the HBARs need to be widely distributed and that there's no big concentrations. You maybe need a good market cap for them all so that one bad guy couldn't buy them all, or at least an efficient market so that if one bad guy tried to buy them all, the price would go up and stop them as they were trying to corner the market. So this is what you need for fully decentralized nodes. Today we have 29 nodes. They're on different continents. We ensure that we don't have all the nodes running on Amazon or all the nodes running on Google. They're spread out. And we do that. We ensure that they're in different data centers to a great degree. We ensure they're on different continents to a great degree. Every continent except Antarctica. And so the nodes are very decentralized in that way. 29 is a pretty good number. A third of that is, more than a dozen. So it takes more than a dozen nodes to be compromised to hurt the network. But to be fully decentralized, we're on the path to add even more nodes that aren't council members, and then to add even more and more nodes that are permissionless. That's the path that we're on. To be secure, so not talking about how to make the network decentralized, but to be secure, you have to do one of two things. Either you're permissioned, or you have the widely distributed coins and the high circulating coin cap. So that's the two things. So the coin cap's a couple $1 billion, which already would be hard for a single person to buy a couple $1 billion worth of HBARs, and the very act of trying to buy $2 billion worth of HBARs would drive the price up and make it even more expensive. So that's kind of good. And then widely distributed coins. On day one, it was all in Hedera. Mance and I pushed a button in 2018 that created 50 billion coins in Hedera. But over time, they've been distributed. And so Hedera has now released, I think, around 2/3 of the coins, and continue over the next decade to release the rest of them. So that column on the right, we're kind of there. And in addition, we're in the column on the left. We're not permissionless yet. And so we have security both ways. And we are looking forward to the day when we can just be secure in one of those two ways and be permissionless. We're not permissionless, so we're automatically secure for that reason. But then also we're actually doing pretty good progress on this right side. We're in pretty good shape compared to 2018 on that. Hedera is leaderless, as I said. It doesn't use proof of work, which would burn lots of resources. It doesn't have to take turns being a leader, which causes problems with fairness. The leader can just leave out your transaction. You have to wait till the next block. It also can have problems with DDoS resilience. Many of these leader-based systems have a DDoS problem. If somebody floods the leader with packets and shuts down the leader, that shuts down the whole network. And you could say, yeah, but a few seconds later, we'll switch to a new leader. Great. But if the bad guys know who the leader is going to be, then they can follow the leader. So that's some networks have a leader that takes turns, but you know them in advance who they're going to be. That's equally bad. You can just DDoS that. But we don't have any of those problems. So that's kind of cool. Okay, governing council and how it's governed. Can you give examples of the way the model has changed? Oh, great question. I'm going to get to decentralized governance on this slide. Good question as we get to the slide. So, decentralized governance. I think this is the biggest problem that everyone in the world needs to be doing, and they're not. You can say we're going to be decentralized, and then what ends up happening is that the power gets grabbed by a handful of people, and maybe theoretically anybody could have power, but they end up with all the power, and then they govern, and maybe you don't know who they are. Maybe they don't have reputations they care about. You know, give them $1 million, they'll compromise their reputation. That's a problem. And so the plan from the beginning for the council was to not do that. We want to have a council that is distributed in geography and industry and time, and whether they're a company or a school or whatever, all of those different things. And so we have them separated. Do they follow what Swirlds tells them to do? Absolutely not. Even when we only had 5 council members, they were not doing what Swirlds tells them to do. And today that's even more true. We have 29 council members that are very, very engaged, and they each have an equal vote, and they each decide what to do. There are committees, and they are on these committees, and the committees are talking about what to do. The council meets every month by Zoom and then frequently meets in person even now. So we have a very decentralized governance council. And I would say the only thing that has changed is that in 2018, we had the vision for what it needs to look like. And now that has actually happened. When can we expect the August minutes? I don't know. Soon, I hope. September hasn't happened. Oh, no, those get voted on at the September meeting. And then I think they usually get released sometime after they're voted on at the next meeting. So the September meeting hasn't happened yet. We're in September. Wait, where are we right now? We're in September, the end of September. September meeting did happen, so they did get voted on. Okay, so they're probably coming out soon. I don't know. I'm not the secretary, but I'm sure that they're coming out at some point. They've tried to be pretty good about that. So that's decentralized governance. Just philosophically, what do you want for governance? You could have, the purple is how many people are governing. You could have 0 people governing. That's the lower left corner. That's a total anarchy. So what side of the road should you drive on? Hey, you pick. You're driving the car, you pick whether you want to drive on the left side of the road or the right side of the road, and everybody else will pick the same thing. They'll just pick 2. So some people will drive on the left side, some people will drive on the right side, some people will drive both ways on this road. That's the anarchy with 0. You don't necessarily trust it because everyone's doing their own thing. And you definitely don't have the ability to make complex decisions. Even as complex as, let's just pick a side of the road. It doesn't matter if it's the right side or the left side, but we have to all drive on the same side of the road. And so that's what we do. Swirlds Labs does not have a wallet. There are many companies building wallets. Swirlds Labs does not have a wallet. Maybe we would someday. And when will it be possible to set up community nodes? That is coming. I don't know the date yet, but that is the next step in our plan to decentralization. That is definitely coming. So the governance could be 0, which is an anarchy. It could be a king. That's one person, a dictator. And that does give you the ability to make complex decisions. A single dictator, if they're a good dictator, can handle really complicated things, dig down into the details, and do a good job. But you have no trust. This is horrible. And of course, this brings to your mind, what's the most important thing about bees? Social organization. How do bees work? Bees do not have a leader. You know, we talk about the queen bee. The queen bee is not a leader. It does not tell the others what to do. The queen bee makes more bees. It's a bee factory. That's what the queen bee is. Bees actually have a distributed consensus algorithm that is fascinating. Ants are also really cool. So you have no trust in a dictator. You have even less trust in anarchy. A dictator can make decisions, but anarchy can't. What do you get for trust? You've got to have multiple people. You have to have decentralized power. Now, people talk about, do you want a representative democracy or a direct democracy? A direct democracy is where you have everybody votes. Every citizen votes, even on issues they know nothing about. And you have very complex issues, but everybody votes. I think I trust, especially if I have a Bill of Rights that prevents them from persecuting minorities. But I think I trust the majority to be sort of honest. But they may not have a good ability to make complex decisions. To make really complex decisions, you have to dig down into the details of complex issues. And that's why most countries now don't do a direct democracy, they do a representative democracy. So you have several leaders. And that kind of is the sweet spot of high trust and high complexity. However, there is still one more problem. If you're led by multiple leaders, if it's weak governance, if no one actually does what the leaders say and they have no way to make it happen, then you can't enforce your decisions. That is an anarchy. you have several people on the thrones, but they can't do anything because there's no way to enforce their will or to make it happen. And so what we do at Hedera is we do on-chain governance. So the on-chain governance makes things happen. The majority of the council has to sign off on a transaction, and that is what causes the code to change or causes us to have different pricing or different rewards, or it's what causes us to add or subtract from the council that's making those decisions. There's an on-chain transaction that changes what keys allow on-chain transactions. And a majority of the old people have to sign in order to add the new person or to change it. So we have, all right, too much going through the chat for me to answer them all in real time. But we have all of this. Why didn't we call Hedera Hive and use it for bees? What a fascinating question. You know, we spent so much time on picking the name for Hedera. Ivy, name for a company. Hedera is a kind of ivy. It's the Latin word for ivy. And so you have multiple branches. It's not a single tree. It's multiple branches, all intertwined. It's green, and we're the lowest footprint per transaction of anyone. So that's why we're called Hedera. But Hive would have been a good name. I like that. Okay. We have a huge council. You know about that. Logos are just wonderful. Top 10 in the world schools, universities, all sorts of things. You know how it works, and it is being used all over the place right now. You know about the Atma project is doing 1,000 transactions a second. We have a lot of other projects too. The other projects make up a quarter of the revenue there. There's a lot of people building real things on Hedera for lots of wide uses. Wide distribution of HBARs. HBARs are the fuel for the network. You use them to pay for transactions, but they also protect the network because it's proof of stake. And so this has been staked from the people. We now have staking. We didn't have that in 2018, but now everybody can stake, and lots of people are staking. I would encourage you to stake. The nodes are spread around the world, but when we go to community nodes, there'll be more, and then we go to permissionless, there'll be even more. All right, what is the role of Hedera in FedNow service? So FedNow is a way for people to move money. They have onboarded many wallets, and one of the wallets, Dropp, you will hear about in the next talk. So ask him that question. Atma is on a break right now. TPS is only 100. Okay, so you're seeing we're actually getting 100 TPS even without Atma. That's interesting. They sometimes break. Okay. That is the end. Okay, so not only would more than a third of the stake be compromised, but the nodes would have to collude. Yes, in order to compromise Hedera, you need to be controlling more than a third of the... You need to be controlling nodes that have more than a third of the stake. That is what it means to attack the ledger. And at the 1/3 level, technically you also need control of the internet. That's to defend against firewalls and other malicious things on the internet. All right, can we utilize Hedera to create and maintain a human DNA vault? I love the idea, do it. Put human DNA or maybe hashes of a human DNA database online. Great idea. Okay, I am right at 15 minutes. I can scroll up a little bit, but I think we've seen some good questions here. Which industries would you like to see on the remaining council seats? Everything. Anything we don't currently have would be great. I would like to see outer space would be really cool. I would like to see, I don't know, every industry that we don't have right now would be great to see. And more universities and nonprofits. I'd like to see more nonprofits, not just that. Okay, I think we're good. Tokenization of the stock market? Absolutely. Tokenization is really here now. People are starting to tokenize real-world assets on Hedera. Real-world assets of gold and silver, and we'll hear more about diamonds, I think, real estate, fine art, and stocks, equities and security tokens. I love that. It is absolutely the way to go, and I love it. Okay, I will let my next friend here on the panel speak. Oh, I need to stop sharing, don't I? Okay. I think that worked.
Yep, thanks. Thanks, Leemon. Hi, folks. This is Sushil. Give me a second to share my screen here. Yep. Excellent. So, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever. I know people are here from all over the world. So my name is Sushil Prabhu. I'm the CEO, founder of Dropp. And Dropp is a company that was spinned out of OpenCrowd in 2020. I've been in the fintech financial services industry for last technology industry for the last 25 years. For the last 17 years, I was the CEO and the founder of a company called OpenCrowd, which used to help a lot of fintech companies and investment banks. We were helping a lot of these banks innovate fintech products. And in 2017, we were fortunate enough to meet with Hedera, and then we became the development partners of Hedera from 17 to 19 till August till Hedera was launched. So we've had a journey for the last 5-6 years with Hedera. So before I get into the news that I know someone had just asked about FedNow, I want to give you some context about Dropp. Many of you probably know about Dropp, but I think it's important to understand what Dropp is and why is it relevant for Dropp to be connected with the FedNow. So Dropp is a micropayment platform, and every time I mention micropayment platform, people get really excited and they think it is really cool. And then the next thing that they think is micropayment, small value transactions, small market. And the fact is it's not. Micropayment is a very, very big market. This is right from the Fed. 50% of the payments, consumer payments in the United States, and this is just US, the rest of the world is maybe 10 times bigger. The transactions, consumer payment transactions under $25 are 50% of the transaction. That's a large amount of transactions. And many of these transactions, I would say about 40% of them, since the pandemic, are being processed using a credit card. Consumers really love it, love to use their credit card. Credit card companies love that. But the merchants are making a lot less than they used to because there's a large amount of transaction fee that you pay on every credit card transaction. And the smaller the transaction, higher is the fee. And that's been the case a lot. But lately, because of all the innovation in the digital services space and the fact that people are using less and less physical cash, the fee issue has become a larger fee. Here's an example. If you were to use PayPal, you would pay 52 cents on the first dollar. If you were to use Stripe, you would pay 44 cents on a dollar, right? So there is, right now in the market, there are very few or almost none cost-effective platforms, payment platforms for small value transaction. And so I wanted to set the context so people understand why micropayments are something that's been talked about a lot lately. They've been talked about for the last 20 years, but lately it's been talked about a lot. Let me just share the vision of Dropp, right? So we envision a global revolution in instant payments. We want to offer consumers and business an alternative to credit card payment system. Right now, you can go to any website, a web commerce website, and swipe your card and make that payment. We want to provide you a method by which you could use digital currencies, or you could use your bank account to make that payments. That's our mission. That's what we're trying to do. And the reason and the driver behind this vision is there are two major developments that have taken place in the last, I would say, 10 years. One is distributed ledger technologies. The entire DeFi world has made it really for you to make a real-time settlement, a real-time payments, right? Similarly, in the banking industry, not much innovation happened in the last 20, 30, 40 years. People were still using checks. It was only the credit card industry that came in and made sort of an instant payment possible. But in the last 10 years, everyone from Brazil, India, China, and now United States have picked up, the banking industry have been working on real-time payment rails. These rails are sort of, you can compare them to what we have in the distributed ledger industry, which is payments that are made, settled in real time, and they are also paid that are not reversible, right? And that actually changes the entire landscape. What Dropp is trying to do is we are trying to sort of be the bridge between blockchain technologies or distributed ledger technologies and the fiat rails and the new banking rails, right? we're trying to take the best of both these technologies and create a platform where you can make payments both in fiat and digital currencies. So Dropp, it's a digital micropayment platform. We are focused on the micropayment just because our payment platform is very cost effective. We can accept payments in thousands of dollars, but really the interesting part of Dropp is we can accept payments as low as 1 cent in a very cost effective fashion. So on $1, you might end up paying a credit card 50 cents. On Dropp, you would end up paying 5 cents. On a 10 cents article, you would end up paying 0.5 cents. So the transaction fee is really meant for the digital economy. And that's how it's been structured. And that's sort of the differentiating factor of Dropp as a payment platform. We also make payments instantaneous to merchants. We have payments you can make in US dollar, you can make in digital currencies, right? I have HBAR, USDC. But the important aspect, as I mentioned before, is we have taken good parts of the decentralized networks and the regulated banking technology. We've used both of them and we merged together. So in this case, the consumer, just like when you have a crypto wallet, you're in complete control. We made sure the same thing happens when you use. The consumer is in complete control. None of the information of the consumer, even when you make a dollar payment, is shared with the merchants. And that's very vital. That's one of the key reasons why we found a lot of traction in the banking industry with the Dropp wallet, right? As I said before, the payments are really cheap. It's 10 times cheaper than a credit card on $1 payments. On an average, it's 1%. So it's low even if you make $1 million transaction, it's still cheaper. But our focus right now is the micro market. And why is it that we're focusing on the micro market? Let me share something very quickly to understand the business model. In the last 20 years, most of the innovation that's taken place in the digital services has been in terms of streaming. You're able to buy digital content quickly, and you can do a lot of stuff on the internet very quickly. But in terms of innovation in monetization, in terms of how you monetize your service, there have always been two models. You either buy a subscription or you watch ads and then able to access the content. But the subscription model, which was very cute 15, 20 years back when you had just one Netflix as a streaming company and there were like 3 or 4 newspapers which are offering you digital content. Now you have thousands and hundreds and thousands of providers, right? And most of us are tired of subscribing to all of that content. So there has to be an alternative, and we think pay-per-use is an alternative. And the barrier to entry into pay-per-use is the transaction cost. I can't sell something for 50 cents because I'll pay 50 cents as a transaction fee. Dropp breaks that, right? So that's why our initial focus is this low-hanging fruit digital services, which is esports, cloud data, anything that you sell on API. We also think connected devices, which is scooters, EV charging. All of these transactions that are under $20, which you require subscribing, is a fair game for micropayments and for Dropp. That's why we picked the micropayment industry. Although we can do transactions, as I said, as much as $1 million, but we really focus on the small market because that's where the real need is. And once we open up that market, we believe that many of these digital merchants will be able to sell to a much wider audience than they've been able to. The platform itself is built on Hedera Hashgraph. It's a commercial product. It's a business product, as you can see. It's a product that we want every consumer in the world to use. We want every merchant to enable Dropp. So one of the questions we get asked about Hedera is why Hedera and why did you use a distributed ledger? And there are 3 things. And I was just listening to Leemon and the mention about security. That comes into play all the time. There are 3 reasons why we use Hedera in Dropp. One is of course, the transaction cost is very low. The transaction speed, the throughput, 10,000 transactions a second is really, really important for us because in micropayments, you make a lot of transactions in a short time, and as opposed to a credit card where you'll be making larger payments. But the third aspect, which many of you probably encounter, you build products on Hedera, but we encounter that all the time as we're working with banks, is the security. And the security is not just the digital security. It is who's the governing council. And the governing council factor comes into play all the time when I talk to. Because there is still a fear factor when it comes to anything crypto, right? And as we are working with more and more institutions, one of the things that has helped us quite a bit with Hedera is the mention of the governing council and the top grade companies that are part of the governing council. It really helps us. So anyway, very quickly, it's built on Hedera Hashgraph. Everything that you see in the blue is built by the Dropp engineering team and a lot more than that. We are on almost every browser there, every popular browser. We are also on iOS and Android. You can download and you can start using us. And there are two options. You can either prepay, you can pre-fund your wallet, or the new thing that we are about to offer is you don't even have to pre-fund it. It is directly made right through your bank account. Okay, that is the reason why we are talking to why we are engaging with banks. We spend a lot of time, and this is what has happened in the last 6 months. As I told you, we've been working on it since 2020. But in the last 6 months, we've been working with lots of different merchants, and we're trying to integrate Dropp in different methods. We have an SDK, we have plugins from WordPress and Shopify. We also have a no-code solution there. And most recently, last week, we announced Wallet Connect, which is you can also do Web3 commerce through Dropp. We have a wide range of APIs, and the entire platform is built on all these APIs. And I can go through one by one, but that'll take the entire day. But we have a whole collection of APIs, and this was really critical for us. Right after we launched the product, we realized that there is a wide range of merchants out there, and every merchant has a different need. And one of the merchants that I'm going to talk about, or one of the type of merchants that we are talking about, are banks. So Dropp is directly offered in the market, but in terms of scale, the way we are looking to scale the Dropp platform is by working through banks, so that the banks can then offer Dropp as a payment method. Right now, banks do not have a payment platform. What we are offering is an embedded payment system, and that's how we're going to scale Dropp. So the APIs that I just shared with you are extremely critical for us, because Dropp has their own mobile apps, banks have their own mobile apps, they have their own infrastructure. How do you embed Dropp in it? And that's a very important aspect of how Dropp is planning on scaling. So we have two options for banks. Just so you know, as a reference, there are about 4,500 banks in this country. The first 10 or 15 have their own technology, the rest of them don't. So banks typically look for a custom-made product that they can just attach. And Dropp has been built enough so that you can do that. Now let me get to the FedNow aspect and the RTP aspect. So our vision is to build Dropp, which can offer both fiat and digital currency as a method of payment, as an alternative to credit card, and that's very critical. With Hedera Hashgraph, we already have real-time payments where if in terms of digital currency, you can use USDC, you can use HBAR. What we were lacking, just because it takes a while, is the banking industry and the fact that the banking industry was working on real-time payments. So for those of you who know FedNow probably also know that there are two banking rails in this country. One of them is called the RTP. RTP is by the clearinghouse. The clearinghouse is the same consortium that offers ACH, which is a batch processing. In fact, everything in the world right now is batch processing till RTP and FedNow came out. It's only India has UPI, then Brazil has SPEX, but the United States was typically was batch processing, and now it's going to be less and less of that. So we've been in conversation with the clearinghouse since 2021, and been nice enough to introduce us to other banks, because we need the sponsorship from a bank to actually implement the RTP. And then most recently, we've been in conversation with discussion with FedNow, and they introduced us to the FedNow showcase. We are registered there, and then we have to work with the bank to actually enable that. And the way it would work is FedNow is the clearinghouse is the real-time money payment rails, but none of these have any payment capabilities. In a way, think about the Hedera network. You can move crypto from wallet to the next, but you still need all of that wallet facilities, all of that merchant capabilities. It's the same thing with the RTP and the FedNow. It's you can very much draw parallel. They're real-time money movement rails, but they don't have all that payment capability which a consumer would need, the experience that would need, and what a merchant would need to accept payments. Both are real-time, both do settlements in real-time, and they're both low cost, which is the reason why we are really, really interested. We think that 5 years from now, this is going to be a very serious alternative to credit cards, where you would be able to go to any website in the world and make a purchase, and you would have the option to pay using a digital currency or using a credit card or using your bank. And that's what we're trying to achieve here. Just one last thing, you should expect in the last 90 days, we've been launching a lot, and there is some more products that are going to be released from Dropp. We just released the NFT collection from, we have all the NFT APIs that Hedera offers, and we have has NFTs on it. We are about to release a WordPress plugin that would help immensely any publisher who's publishing documents. Not only would it take payments, but it would also let you restrict the access to that content to the person who purchased it. And that's the power of that plugin. We just announced Wallet Connect last week. You must have seen it. We are about to announce an in-person payment. So we've been working on it, and there's a lot more to come. I'm ready for questions if people have questions.
I went and picked them all out of the chat so far, and I put them all at the bottom for you. 5 questions.
Okay, I'm sorry if I... Oh, yeah, okay.
So if you look in the chat, the very last message is for me, and it has the 5 questions that I picked out from what people typed up above. People were discussing things, and these are the 5 questions that people asked in between the discussions.
Okay. Hey, Sushil, have any big companies reach out to you since the exposure from England? Hey, thanks for the question. Yes. For us, the FedNow news was good. We were listed, but it really helped us. And thank you, Fed. It really helped us because we've been approached by both much larger companies we would have ever had access to, but we've also been approached by major banks, right, who would like to partner with us so that we can offer something like Dropp. Like it would be white label and we are absolutely okay with that, powered by Dropp. So yes, it has really immensely helped us. And we want to keep that momentum. We want to be out there. We're going to be first out there with the clearinghouse RTP, because that's we're in the process of doing that. So you will, at least merchants would get their payments instantly. And then we're going to do something with the FedNow in 2024, which is you can make payments using a FedNow. Okay, I hope that answers. Second, micropayments with crypto seem like a difficult thing to find adoption. Can you share your thoughts and your plan or recent development for the businesses to adopt? The micropayments with crypto in Hedera is actually not very difficult because it's very cost effective, right? And we also now offer USDC for folks who are interested in USDC. The efficiency of micropayments, there's plenty of use cases out there, if that's your question. There's plenty of use cases, right from an influencer who wants to micro tip. The only friction point, and maybe that's the point you're making, is how do I convert that cryptocurrency into US dollar or any currency? That will remain. You see, that's the reason why we also have fiat in our platform, because for mass adoption right now, it can't just be crypto, and that's why we offer both the option. But these are all friction point that at some point, and that's why I say 5 years from now, you will be able to go to a credit to a website, and you will be able to make an option as to how you want to pay. Do I pay from my bank, from my digital currency wallet, which is in my case is Dropp, or I can pay using a credit card, which also Dropp offers. So I think it's just a matter of time. There is friction point. I would agree with you on that. Serious question. What's your take on subscription or one-off micropayments? Very good. Thank you. I get asked this question from many of the streaming companies we talk about. So we don't think it is either just subscription or just one-off. What we've been actually focusing on is the subscription audience is a finite audience, right? But the one-off audience is there's a large population I would love to go to Hulu.com and buy something, rent something, and be done with it, right? And if I do that 10 times, I'll subscribe, right? So they should always offer the option to subscribe for people who think that's the best, that's one of their favorites. But this one-off thing, it's not really one-off. The way we've done in Dropp is when you make that purchase, we do not share any details with the merchant, right? So that is one-off. But we have given them the ability to reach out to you in terms of offering you a coupon or some sort of thing. So there's a deeper engagement between the merchant and the consumer. And if the consumer is not interested in that coupon or that offer, they can just walk away. So I really think in the future, both these models, in fact, we just wrote a white paper in the Streaming Media Association, which was very widely received, and we'll release it once it's off their association. And this is a point we're trying to make is consumers want choices, and micropayment will be one of the choices. Do I have time for one more question? Is there any ESG cases for company using Dropp micro or traditional subscription method? I would last part they're going to be looking at. We are working with a startup which is very initial. I can't share that because yes, absolutely there is an ESG case, and definitely, especially with micropayments. I mean, if you think about the history of micropayment, it really comes from microfinancing, which started in countries like Bangladesh and all of them, and there's a lot. Leemon, is that another question or yeah? Yes, absolutely. Can Dropp micropayments be incorporated on a Web3 wallet for purchasing asset onto a Web3 wallet? So yes. So if you, I didn't have enough time to talk about that. We have an option by which if you have a digital wallet, mobile wallet, you can get a pay link from Dropp, put that in, and we have a no-code solution. If that's your question, that's my answer on that one. Last question. What date will be the latest version of the Dropp Hedera multi-wallet connect be released? We released it last week. I don't know the version number of the Hedera SDK. I'm sorry. But whatever the latest version was, because we just released it last week. Thank you, folks. Unless there is more questions. Yeah, there is. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Is that good? Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think there's any...
Please reach out to us. Sorry, I'm going to just share my document. Sorry. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. There were a lot of really great questions in the chat, and thank you for taking the time to answer all of them. So
thank you very much. Thanks for inviting. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Our next presenter is Greg on the newly launched Stablecoin Studio. So the stage is yours, Greg.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, just checking I was unmuted. Hopefully you can see my slides. I'm going to run through relatively quickly in the interest of time, make sure that Tony doesn't feel left out. So, as you know, Hedera has a number of services, and in the context of Stablecoin Studio, we're focusing specifically on the token service and the smart contract service. So why did we build Stablecoin Studio? Principally to try and make it possible for somebody who's interested in building a stablecoin, who might be exploring different networks, to be able to perform this exploration or this exploratory work as quickly as possible on the Hedera network, essentially giving them no excuse not to look at Hedera. And you've probably, or maybe you've seen some videos we've recorded of installing Stablecoin Studio from scratch, and it literally takes minutes. By which time you have a working stablecoin solution. Of course, it may not answer all of your needs, but if it's 90% there, then that's an awful lot of work taken care of already. The other thing that we were very mindful of once we had figured out what features we wanted was that a stablecoin in reality isn't just the technical pieces, the contract, the token. It's a whole set of other features or other capabilities that live around that stablecoin. Proof of reserve, KYC, monitoring contracts, custody for the asset itself, and the keys to manage the asset. So we've tried to build an ecosystem here around Stablecoin Studio with some partners in the Hedera ecosystem, and moreover, we're continuing to add to those partners. So the use cases that Stablecoin Studio supports are, literally every possible use case you can think of. Sushil talked to us about micropayments. As a stablecoin, this is entirely possible on Hedera. And I think one of the interesting facts that I've found recently, according to Circle, the crypto industry as a whole, in terms of USD stablecoins, has moved an equivalent amount of US dollars to Visa in 2022. But the crypto industry only performed 148 times fewer transactions than Visa for the same amount. And this tells me that we're not moving small amounts, even $25, but rather large amounts. And clearly we need to move to a stage where the stable coins are used for things other than DeFi, for example. It's built for everyone who may want to deploy a stablecoin, from Web3 issuers all the way to enterprise banking or institutions. So there really is no limit to who can use the Stablecoin Studio. So what does it look like to build with Stablecoin Studio? We've created an SDK, which is open source. And with that SDK, you can essentially interact with the stablecoin that you can issue a stablecoin first, and then manage that stablecoin without having to understand necessarily how to create contracts, how to deploy contracts, or even understand the API for the native Hedera token service. And in order to demonstrate how we use this SDK, we've built two tools. A command line interface, which works in a terminal and is completely menu driven, and also an open source React UI, which is maybe nicer to use for some than the CLI, and you can try it out on stablecoinstudio.com. All you need is a Hedera testnet account and Hatchback installed in your browser. Okay, so Studio is essentially a hybrid architecture, maybe the first of its kind, where we're leveraging the speed, efficiency, and low cost of the native token service. That's the token that is the stablecoin, and we're delegating optionally some of the management features of the native token to a smart contract, where you're able to add programmability through Solidity code. So we can do things like proof of reserve. If we delegate minting to a contract, the contract can, check that there's enough reserve before it will allow minting. We could do things like limiting the token supply to increase by no more than 10% a month or 10% a week. We can do a whole bunch of different things thanks to the programmability of smart contracts combined with the token service, but without losing the speed and efficiency of the native token itself, which, to Sushil's presentation earlier, enables micropayments or simply low transaction fees. So I'll probably skip that, but I won't. Smart contracts on Hedera, an ERC20 token, vanilla from OpenZeppelin is 5 cents to do a peer-to-peer transfer. It's a tenth of a cent on Hedera, so it's 50 times cheaper. And in terms of throughput, the token service is more than 30 times faster than smart contracts. So clearly we have major advantages with a hybrid model over either only smart contracts or only token service, particularly when it comes to programmability. When you're interacting with Stablecoin Studio as an issuer and an administrator, you go via the CLI or the web admin interface. That, through the SDK, communicates with the smart contract service or the token service, depending on how the token is deployed. But essentially, the management side of things is typically done via smart contract. A user in a wallet would be transacting directly using the native token service. And with an oracle on the left-hand side, checking balances of accounts or reserve accounts from the banking system, we can implement proof of reserve on-chain and make sure that minting is limited to what's in reserve. I've talked about various integrations, and I think I've not got the slides I had planned for this. So let's just move on. We've audited the smart contracts. You can see the audit report in the repository, and let me just skip through some of those. If you're interested in building using Stablecoin Studio, you can apply for grants through the foundation and the association. We have a long line of partners that we're training on managing and deploying the Stablecoin Studio. And you can also check all of our documentation, GitHub repo, and so on and so forth, for if you want to just get on with it, so to speak. So with that, I'm going to move on to show you a quick demo. And again, I'm being very mindful of time, Tony. So we'll probably not do much more than deploying a stablecoin.
You go ahead. Go ahead, Greg. Very interesting.
Don't you wish passwords were easier? Okay, so I've signed in to my wallet as an account I have on testnet, which is my issuer, and I'm just going to go ahead and create a new stablecoin. So I'll give it a name, and this one will be called Discord 0923 DIS09, and you can check this on testnet in real time if you want to. We're not going to give it an initial supply. We can specify whether the supply is finite or infinite. 6 decimals is the USDC standard, so we've reused that here, but you can change it. And here we're moving into the permission side of things. So by default, everything is delegated to the smart contract, or to a smart contract that will deploy alongside the token. But I can switch this, and I can change, for example, to say, I would like Leemon to be able to pause my token. So if Leemon gives me his public key, then Leemon will have authority over pausing. Or we could say, we're not going to be able to pause this token or this stable coin, so we don't want that option available. Or we're going to delegate it to the token manager smart contract. I can also enable KYC for my stablecoin. This is necessary in some jurisdictions. And we're also able to add custom fees. So as you know, a lot of stablecoins put their treasury into some sort of investments. which is causing potentially some issues with redeemability of the stablecoin and the availability of reserves. Alternative models suggest that you could hold the reserves without investing them, but in order to fund the operation of the stablecoin, you may want to have some custom fees, so you could leverage a 0.1% fee or a 1% fee on all transactions. Again, all of that is really up to the issuer of the stablecoin. It's not, nothing is precluded in the solution. I could opt to enable proof of reserve, and if I have an existing smart contract holding reserve, I can specify what that address is, and we use Chainlink's specification for the proof of reserve. Alternatively, I can deploy my own proof of reserve contract, and in this case, I would be saying I have 0 reserve. But let's say I've got 2,000 in reserve. And next step, I just get to review everything, and I can go ahead and create my stablecoin. So the first thing I'm asked to do is to approve a call to a contract, which will deploy the stablecoin and the associated management contract. We also use proxy contracts for those of you who are Solidity developers, so we can upgrade the contracts if necessary. And the next stage, or the next step, is for me to associate my issuer account with the stablecoin, which I'm doing just now. And there we go. We've issued a new stablecoin called Discord something or other. There we go, the ISO 9. And from there, I'm now able to, because I'm the administrator, I'm able to mint or cash in stable coins, and I'm also able to delegate. So that happens from time to time when I'm sharing screen. I live in the middle of the countryside and my broadband is not very fast. So yeah, so as an administrator, I have the ability through role management here to delegate some roles. So I'm telling the smart contract that, for example, Leemon is authorized to mint my stablecoin, or that May is allowed to perform KYC, and so on and so forth. So everything then gets controlled through the smart contract. I'll stop here and leave not enough time for Tony. I'm sorry, Tony.
Yeah, don't you worry at all. Don't you worry at all. So Mika was kind enough to invite me. I'm honored to share this opportunity with these 3 gentlemen. Their projects are all very, very interesting. I'm a representative from an organic ecosystem group called the HBAR Foundry. I'm going to drop some links right now into the chat so that people have some visuals to look at and can relate to some of the things that I want to share. But the HBAR Foundry is something that I found to be truly awesome, and I want to share it with you, and I'd like everybody to get involved. I've been meeting with and collaborating with other Hedera ecosystem projects over the course of a couple of years now through a somewhat ad hoc network and collective of Hedera projects called the HBAR Foundry, which meets every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific and 10 a.m. Central in the U.S. We also have an Asia Pacific time, which I think is at 5 a.m. Central time in the U.S. And so if you are a project developer, either a coder or an entrepreneur, and you have a project, you may be asking yourself, where are all the visionary builders? How can I network and meet with some people that have the skills and the drive and the boldness required to create groundbreaking solutions and projects? And I can tell you now, they're getting together every Friday at the HBAR Foundry Zoom meeting, 8 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Central. The link I've dropped into the chat. So if you'll leave a comment below, if you have a Hedera project or an idea that you want to receive an invitation to our weekly Zoom meetings where you can share ideas, get feedback about what other projects in the ecosystems are doing, meet with the performers who are solving real world problems in the real world with Hedera today, then join us at the HBAR Foundry. We're a community collective where we all vibe on the Hedera wavelength. We share wins and challenges, we laugh, and we share, and we extend our knowledge and our collective understanding of what it takes to drive real solutions to real business problems into the real marketplace. So the HBAR Foundry is a collaboration, networking, and innovation collective, for lack of a better term, with a shared vision for solving common problems and changing the world, all built on Hedera. So we're becoming more formalized. We have a charter coming together. Again, I dropped that into a link to that into the chat. It's on GitHub. We'd like you to take a look to understand more about what we're doing and what role we're trying to play in the ecosystem. On a very high level, we want to work and support the development of standards. We want to be an on-ramp to some of the more on-brand organizations and entities like the HBAR Foundation and the Hashgraph Association for up-and-coming projects. We also want to serve as a communications hub for the collective voice to the branded entities, including the governing council. We'd like to, pull all the voices together. And we're also, and this is kind of, I want to emphasize this, we're building open source tools and commons infrastructure that can solve problems for everyone in the ecosystem. Things such as the name services that will be required for all of us. Things like Wallet Connect. Sushil mentioned that they're working with Wallet Connect. We have an active effort right now to create a standard so we're all singing from the same sheet of music. Decentralized communications and messaging. So I can have one set of contacts and messaging and port that across all kinds of Hedera dApps. Also, decentralized identity, mirror nodes. We're working on a project. We have a team working on the economic models of mirror nodes, how to create self-sufficient mirror nodes. And we also want to be introducing and supporting HIPs that make sense to the ecosystem at large. So I will cut it short since we're a minute over. We'd like you to join us if you have a project, if you're a project manager or a coder or just an entrepreneur with an idea. Join us for the HBAR Foundry Zoom meeting. There's a sign-up sheet at the hbarfoundry.com in the link in the chat that I just dropped. We're all about building stronger, a more innovative ecosystem together. So grab a seat at the table, let's chat, and together we'll make Web3 history at the HBAR Foundry. Thanks again for the invitation, Mika, and all the speakers. It was a great presentation. Thank you.
Wow, what a call. All of these presentations were incredible. And ladies and gentlemen in the audience, you have witnessed the builders of the future. So thank you so much for joining us today in this community call. It was such a blast, and we will see you next month for the next community call. Thank you to all the speakers, and thank you to the community for being here with us today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.